You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Global Trade This Week. We do it every single week. We don't miss a heartbeat, and we love talking about trade, logistics, and supply chain. I'm only half of the show. My co-host and conspirator, who is, again, in a different location across this beautiful country, is Mr. Pete Mento. Pete, easily can tell you're in a hotel. So what's your story, brother? Where are you?
I had a friend of mine who asked me to fill in kind of last minute at Port Columbus 24. So I have taken a break in my much needed vacation to be in Columbus to speak at a pretty significant venue today. As you can tell, happy to do it, but I would much rather still be in New Orleans than here. But these things happen.
Yeah. Well, good for you. You know, self-sacrifice for the betterment of the industry. So that is that's cool, man. Thanks for doing that. I'm sure your friend is very appreciative. So
listen, man, I'm not Mother Teresa. You know, I'm giving a 45-minute speech about trade compliance, and I'll probably hand out like 100 business cards while I do it. So it's okay.
Yeah. Hey, that's what we do. Yeah. And Mother Teresa, if people could just hear the conversations before the show and the commentary after the show, I think they would be, I don't know, entertained, shocked, surprised. I don't know, but it's great. We always talk for maybe 10 or 15 minutes before. So anyway.
It's pretty morbid, Doug. We've got some dark humor before this show starts.
Yep, exactly. So, but we're not about dark humor during the show. We're about global trade, forward thinking. So Pete, kick it off, brother. What you got?
Yeah, in an event sure to irritate and aggravate Doug Draper, last Thursday, I believe. Last Thursday, Tesla had a enormous launch ceremony. You know, tech companies do these all the time, where they have some big production of a launch ceremony, and the launch was for a couple of things. First was the cyber taxi, and the idea behind the cyber taxi is, according to Elon Musk, fact check him. Again, Global Trade This Week, we don't fact check. The average American spends less than 8 hours a day in their car. Less. And I guess that's including people who do long haul driving and all. I don't understand about that. So what do we do with that car for the other 16 hours? It just sits in our garage or out parked in front of our house. So what if we had a car that you bought, and for the other hours, it was actually available for someone else to use? And he showed some incredible pictures of what he thought the future would look like. It would unquestionably eliminate the need to park. So it would drop you off and it would go out and make you money. And he envisions a future where people own 2 or 3 of these things and it's their income. And the operating cost at this point is around 20 cents a mile, which is high. But as more and more of them are bought and the technology gets better, he expects it to be more like 2 to 3 cents. I mean, it was incredible, the things he was talking about. And the car itself, it picks up after itself. It has robotic arms and things inside of it that pick up tissue that people left. It vacuums itself. It was pretty amazing. The second thing that he brought out that I found fascinating was his robots, which the more I learn about them, the more amazed I am. And I've talked about this before on the show. He expects there to be somewhere between 7 to 10 humanoid robots for every person living in the world by the end of the century. And seeing them, we found out later that they weren't necessarily speaking. It was a person who was talking for them. It wasn't quite as Westworld as I sort of hoped that it was, but there were humanoid robots serving drinks to people. And I don't know if they were being remotely controlled, but the point is that these things can articulate that way. But it's the third one for today's show that I find the most fascinating, the robot van, which he kept calling robot van, which bothered me. And I don't know why. Just call it a robo van, Elon. Come on, be cool. And it was a very sizable piece of equipment. And it looked beautiful. It's Art Deco-y sort of a thing. And he had 12 people walk off of it. But he said during his speech, imagine the same idea being transferred now to cargo, that you'd be able to do, it would take the place of a box truck or a straight truck. where it would pick things up and it would move them where they needed to go throughout the course of the day, and it wouldn't need to be driven. And the statistics on that are positively mind-numbing, Doug. The idea that there's a way for us to do final haul delivery of small package, final haul delivery after break, bulking out the cargo and doing the customs entry, getting the boxes of things to people, and having these robots actually deliver it to the place that it needs to go. If we would have had this conversation 10 years ago, it would have sounded absurd. But now I am positive that we saw last Thursday the future. This is going to go down as one of the most important product launches in human history. It's up there with the Wright brothers. I'm not kidding. It's up there with, the Mercedes-Benz converting from steam to gasoline. It's up there with all the changes, tractor trailer. And I can see you smirking, already doing it. Doug, the ability for this technology to be mass produced in America, that's also very important. And then the way that it will be able to completely, radically change humankind. Not just like some rich dude who's got 3 Teslas that he's renting out. Mankind is going to dramatically change because of this technology. And people might not see it now, but that's what's going to happen. You're going to have autonomous vehicles doing final mile delivery, autonomous vehicles that can be shared by individuals that will go from place to place. The number of deaths because of these cars is going to go down dramatically over time. And what we do to our environment is going to change. Parking lots are going to go away because of this, giving green spaces and opportunities to build more. Doug, what we saw on Thursday was a wholesale change to mankind. Now is your opportunity to tell me what an idiot I am and to completely disagree with me.
Well, first off, Pete, you are not an idiot. I learn things from you every single day. So that is not the case at all.
But
no, however, I can say however, but sounds too aggressive. I don't know, man. I don't even know where to start. So first of all, this stuff is so visionary. I get that. Musk does some crazy stuff. Everybody pivots to what he has to say. Steve Jobs-esque, as he had been developing Apple. But I mean, maybe he is just so incredibly visionary that it's hard for muggles like myself to comprehend, right? So I'm all about practicality, right? So the self-driving cargo, I'm trying to figure out how that thing's going to navigate. And my daughter, and here's why I'm going to think about this, navigate Little Italy in Boston. How's it going to get around Manhattan? If you're this big fancy warehouse that's in the middle of Central Valley of California, maybe, but this is decades away, right? So the car thing where I want to rent my car and have it zip around, I don't know. I mean, there needs to be a whole generation of people, maybe for the next 50 years, to retire, and may I be so bold, die before people are, welcoming of this. I think kids that are, hey, they don't like to drive, they just take Uber. We've talked about that before. Like when you and I were 16, even 15, in our rural communities, you could start driving. Man, I couldn't wait to start driving. That's not so much the case anymore. Certainly is with some. So until that generation kind of gets 30, 40 years up, I don't know. I like cleaning my car. I like having it. I like watching it and seeing it in my driveway. So I'm kind of a little bit all over the place on this one, Pete. I get it. I don't know if it's revolutionary. I think the helium, blimp or Zeppelin was revolutionary back in the day. I get it. He needs to be a visionary. He's got Mars and all the things he's got going on. He's a verbose character in some degrees. He tells great stories, and some of the things that he does materializes on some degree. But full, wholehearted game changer, I don't see that happen anytime soon. Like anytime soon in the next century.
10 years.
What?
10 years.
All right. So if we do one of these a week, and so that's 52 a year times 10. So if we get to like episode 600, because we've already got, or 650, we've already got about 150 under our belt. No way. 100% disagree on this whole thing.
Okay.
Nope.
fine. Doug, you can disagree with me about this all you want. Like you said, it's not about us. Our ideas are dying. If you were to tell my daughter that there's a way for her to affordably never have to own a car, but to have all the benefits of a car, she's all in. All of her friends are all in.
Well, until the age of our leadership in our country switches from like upper 70s down into the 40s, as far as age goes, I don't think the mentality is gonna
Doesn't
change.
matter.
We could have a whole show on this one, plus
Yeah.
many more. I don't
But
deny how the younger generation and our kids are right in the thick of it. Perceive, engage, and with technology way different than we did, and it will exponentially go faster and faster. But that is a massive quantum leap from what you
you
just
wait till he makes
described.
a phone. That's the next thing, Doug. The
What's
Tesla phone. When he makes the Tesla phone, that will also change everything. That works off of Skylink, and he's talking about a virtually indestructible phone made in America. Virtually indestructible, made in America off a satellite network that is going to have outrageous security, and that too will change everything.
Mm-hmm.
We've
Yeah, I
left
think
the cell phone.
he talked about a virtually indestructible truck at one time too, and I won't go any further than that.
Well, it turns out the Cybertruck is pretty hard to kill, so he did pull that one off. But he said this, and I agree with him. We've now left the cell phone era. We've left the handheld computer era. Is now what we are quickly moving away from, and we're moving to a humanoid robot era, and that's happening in front of us as we speak. Doug, there will be a warehouse 10 years from now, and I'm willing to bet DSV runs it. That's how confident I am in this. Where there aren't people working in difficult environments. There's still people working in them, but there will be humanoid robots who are lifting heavy things, who are, the driving the forklifts, and it takes a whole new perspective on what's going on with the port strike. If you begin to really extrapolate beyond that, they should be scared, because there's nothing that those guys don't do that could not be automated if there was an articulating human robot that could do the work for them. It's coming, buddy. In the great words of Billy Bragg, here comes the future and you can't run from it. If you've got a blacklist, I want to be on it. All right. So there's nothing you can do about it. You can hate it, and you can say, I'm going to be a hater. I'm going to be on the list hating it, Doug. Whether you like it or not, it's happening, pal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm going to just do my self-intro and change the topic and move on to mine. Something
Fair
a little
enough.
bit more. I'm shutting this down.
Fair enough.
Oh, so I'm kind of rewinding and going back to the real world for a minute, and that's related to moving cargo through traditional means of planes, trains, and automobiles. And I saw the other day that Amazon Air, Prime Air, which is initially designed to have a closed loop system to move their own products, is now actually selling their services, right? So they've basically entered in the for-hire air cargo market, right? So they're making the available capacity in their own aircraft. Now, they don't own them, they lease them out, right? That's a whole other level and very common in the industry. But they're basically selling it out to third parties now, right? So the DSVs of the world and other freight forwarders can actually buy space on their planes. So two things. One, it's a new sales channel, right? They always talked about how Amazon was going to be the new FedEx, UPS, the third bar stool, if you will, in that. And this is a very tangible move towards that, right? The one thing, Pete, I didn't understand. I didn't know how big their fleet was, right? They have 100 here. I'm just going to read some stats here. 100 aircraft. They have 737s and 767s, which is kind of a little old school, and Airbuses. 250 daily flights, 55 airports or 54 airports. Their hub is outside of Cincy, and it's reminiscent to me as you remember, folks from our era, Airborne Express. That's how I cut my teeth in this industry. Their hub was in Wilmington, Ohio. I think the airplanes, no offense to anybody, because I love Airborne Express. I learned so much from that organization. I have utter respect for them. But I think they had rubber bands, some duct tape, and bubble gum that held that operation together at times, which made it fun and exciting. So some of this is reminiscent. A 767 was old, when I was at Airborne Express and now that they have them. The bottom line is, here's a new avenue that has capacity that's going to market, and we'll be interested to see if Amazon lowballs the rate structure out there related to domestic air freight. And would FedEx or UPS ever buy that space from Amazon and put their cargo on it? So anyway, I think that there's a lot more to this discussion and this topic in the future. So did you hear about it?
Yes, yeah, I was really captivated by the whole story, and for a long time, people have speculated that Amazon might buy, or that Alibaba might buy like UPS, buy DHL, like do something like that, because they use so much space, and now they're dipping their toe in. I mean, think about that. Like buying 100 aircraft and operating every day is just like playing around for Amazon. They're not even serious yet, and they're just going to start slinging cargo everywhere, which is interesting from a capacity perspective. But I would love to know, I haven't seen anything on this yet, how more profitable it makes them by being able to just more or less buy transportation at cost. And then that cost associated with it now is dramatically reduced. That got my attention. And then second of all, how much of e-commerce is taking up air freight? A lot right now. So they've also kind of cornered the market on that, which is going to allow them to really stick it to competitors. Like everything else Amazon does, there's probably a lot of thinking that went into this. Just seemed like a really smart decision. And I think we're going to see this thing really, really grow quickly. Whatever they can do to make it happen.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to let other people subsidize the costs of their network, right? Which will enable them to continue to operate on the 2-day prime and that model. So
I wonder what the 2-letter code is for Amazon's aircraft. That might be true. Yeah. If it was Elon Musk, it absolutely would be. Yeah. Or Baseballs 1 or something like that. Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, that brings us to our halftime, one of our favorite parts of the show where Pete and I can just talk about whatever we want. And I'm sure some people fast forward through this section and other people may just jump to it and listen to our pontifications. But it's brought to us by Cap Logistics. We appreciate all the support that they give. So halftime, 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Pete, what you got?
Doug, I down in New Orleans last weekend, had a wonderful time. And I was constantly frustrated by the fact that people would not take cash. It was, as an example, where the Saints play at the Superdome. It is a cashless facility. No one there. So if you get a beer in the stands, they want a card. If you go anywhere to buy, they want a card. And in New Orleans, I'm always very skeptical of the credit card machines because it's kind of a hustling town, man. Someone's always trying to stick it to you. And I don't like giving my credit card out down there because it's a tourist city. So if someone's going to steal your crap, it's going to happen there. But I was really shocked at the number of places I went that said, we don't take cash. We don't take cash. And it bothered me for a number of reasons, not the least of which is I don't need a large company. I'm going to sound like I'm wearing a tinfoil hat here, gathering all my data and being able to sell it or do whatever, or a government agency being able to turn off my ability to purchase goods and services. But the fact I could not use legal tender cash, which anywhere else on the planet has a higher value normally than the money that's there, it really, really got to me. It really got to me. And, I took out a certain amount of cash because that's what I wanted to spend that day. And I guarantee I spent more than I took out. It just really bugged me, So this is my turn now, Doug, to be a cantankerous old fart when I talk about this. Yep. I don't know, Doug, where are you on the cashless society?
You and I are 100% in agreement. I joke with my kids. I'll still go to the ATM. I'll get out cash. And I joke with my kids, I don't want people tracking where I am and what I'm buying. Right. So I'm in favor. Some things I don't mind. The grocery store make it easier. You're not behind that individual that opens up their checkbook and writes it out while everybody's waiting. That doesn't happen anymore. No. But yeah, I'm all just. There's certain things that need to be cashed. When you were telling the story, when I was in my mid-20s, visited a bunch of friends in Chicago. We went to a Cubbies game at Wrigley. And the idea of you're in the middle of the stands and you're handing money to 15 people down there where the beer guy is taking it and he's handing an open beer in like a plastic, like a wax paper cup that's like getting squished as it gets passed and beer spilling. And you're like, buddy, what's up? keep the change, and then you get to know your neighbor because he's handing you a beer, and you're like, let me buy you the next round, and all that kind of stuff. So 100%. And the sporting events, I think Mile High Stadium is cashless. I know that Coors Field is. And yeah, come on. And it's just agreed, certain things, but let's just keep the cash around. I don't need my boss knowing I'm at a Rockies game at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Thursday.
Well, now he knows, Doug. Good job. I haven't gone to a day baseball game in the middle of the week in like a decade. I miss them. They were a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So what you got, Doug? Tell us about your halftime.
All right. Well, this is another old. Well, it shouldn't. Anyway, I'll just tell you about this one. So I'll keep it short and sweet. There was a new cruise ship called the Sun Princess, which is the newest fleet for the Princess Cruise Lines that went out of Port Everglades the other day. It was a mega ship. They were basically delayed because of the hurricanes in the last week or so going through Florida. So they were just kind of out of the way waiting, and then they came in. It is a mega ship, right? I'm not going to go into all the things that it has on it, but if you look at it, I don't even know how tall these things are, but it looks like you get a little bit of wave in the ocean, it's going to tip over. And it's just more and more and more people. And I just keep thinking to myself, no way will I ever be able to go on a cruise ship. The claustrophobic nature, not necessarily on it, because that's just people, big city, you're kind of doing whatever. But if that thing ever shut down in the middle of the ocean, because you've heard stories, and I'm the old guy, and I'm sure the percentage of the time that it happens is very small, but having zero control of my situation, and there's a listeria breakout or whatever, toilets are getting, and you have no control, right? I freak out when I go through the Eisenhower Tunnel in here in Colorado, that if that traffic ever comes to a dead stop in the tunnel, I'm going to lose my shit. And there's just no way I would ever get on a cruise vessel. There's those, what are the ones in Europe?
The Viking ones?
Viking, yeah. I'm like, I could do a Viking. And then I paused to myself and I'm like, that's what really old people do. So I guess that means that's what I'm migrating to, because I can see the shore. I'm a pretty good swimmer. The S goes D, I'm jumping off and swimming to the shore. So, Pete, my question to you, thumbs up or thumbs down on mega cruise ships?
Cruises, period, I don't think I could do. It's come up a bunch of times. It's a weird kind of thing for me, Doug. This has been brought up a bunch of times to me. I have a very dear friend of mine, friend of the show, Bridget Boyer, who works at Holland America. And she's always saying, you and your daughter should go on a cruise. You'd love it. But I would feel like I'm supposed to be going to work, right? This is a ship. And when you're on a ship, you move cargo and you go to work, right? That's what's in my brain. I mean, the good news is if I had to, I could probably very poorly navigate the thing in the middle of the open sea if it happened, but I could do it. It's just not something I want to do. You know, the worst kind of cargo in the world are ones that talk and breathe and eat, and I don't want to be surrounded by them. And vacations for me, I need a certain degree of improv that it goes on throughout it. I don't want to be set to someone else's schedule. But the idea of being on a gigantic floating city where the fun is being manufactured makes my skin crawl.
Yeah.
So I've heard about these other cruises, super high end, very expensive cruises. Maybe that's the way that I go, I guess. But, I'll just go to France and stay at the Ritz-Carlton, dude. I'm good. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Not for me, buddy.
Yeah. All right. We're on the same page. I just have visions of you like a Ernest Hemingway. It's like 11 o'clock at night and you got these slickers on and you're at the front of the boat and you're just talking about the chaos. Stand back, mateys. We're moving forward. Blah, blah, blah.
Not far from what I would hope to be the truth. It's like when a small airplane pilot is hoping that the pilot goes down on your flight. And is there any pilots in here? Oh, it's my time. It's finally happened. I'd be eating a crepe at the breakfast bar. Does anyone have a Coast Guard license? Here, and then I would go stand to watch.
Love it.
Pretty funny.
All right. Well, that was our halftime bought by Cap Logistics. We appreciate their support and their help. That's it. So the second half of the show, Pete, what's your topic?
Doug, my next topic's not very long, but I think it sort of proves a point here. The numbers that we're getting back right now about the cargo volumes are very interesting when it comes to ocean. We know now for a fact people moved a lot of crap prior to what we thought was going to be a strike. You've got Golden Week happening, right? There's certain things in the calendar that really flow with ocean freight, and we're seeing volumes. They're not where they were or where we expected them to be, because you talked about this thing twice on the show. People were front loading their inventory, anticipating a possible strike. And now that's going to have an effect on rates. You would imagine if volumes go down, rates will go a little down with them. Good news. But what really I wanted to talk about here is I think that this is people who learned from COVID. I think it's folks that maybe realize that when COVID happened and their supply chain fell to pieces, I don't want that to happen again. So let's take a financial risk and maybe pay a little bit more, hold it in inventory, which is a cash problem for some companies, but it'd be better to have it here than to have to worry about not being able to get it at all or only go through the West Coast. So to me, I think this is a good indication that people did learn something from what happened in COVID. And I'll be watching a lot of other phenomena to see how else we can probably tie those two together.
Yeah. No, I would agree, that people did learn from COVID. And I guess a couple things, right? With all if you're dialed in and your job is to negotiate and manage freight for a large company or any size of company, right? Maybe even the smaller ones are more important because it's live and breathe or live and die by a handful of containers that could make your business. Panama Canal was an issue. Suez Canal was an issue. West Coast Port was an issue. These hurricanes, and obviously freight would be moving before the hurricanes happened. The potential of the strike. Maybe there was just enough signals out there that people made it. And then there's probably people in boardrooms that are like, hey, we overbought at the end of COVID. We burned through all that inventory in 2023. We need to be right-sized and ready to go because we were up and down in the last couple of years. It's very unstable. And the shareholders can't handle that this year. So get it here early. We'll justify the additional cost, but gosh darn it, we're not going to lose business because we don't have product in market. And I think COVID certainly set the bar for what that happened. So, good on you, the American logistics negotiator.
Yeah, I think demand planning is probably the crappiest job in logistics, buddy.
Yeah.
When things go right, they're like, well, that was your job. And when they go wrong, everything is your fault. So I would not want to have that as a gig, dude.
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
All right, Doug, take us home, buddy. What's our last topic this week?
All right, my last topic, and if anybody knows this gentleman, I know for a fact we would have him on our show. We would do a dedicated one, and it's Dave Clark, who's the former Amazon whiz kid. He's not a kid, but he's the former Amazon guy that went over to Flexport, that was starting to make some changes and move in a positive direction from what I had read. And then your buddy Ryan, kicked him to the curb. Well, he's announced that he started this new venture called Auger, Auger. He's got like $100 million of backing. It's a logistics software startup. It's basically the ability to unify different data and provide real-time insights and allow people to make decisions faster and all that kind of good stuff. So a name that nobody had heard of, Dave Clark, all of a sudden in the last 18 months, he's kind of like a name that everybody knows if you're in the supply chain world. So I wish him all the best. Sounds like he's a very creative individual. I didn't know much about him until his move over to Flexport. Would welcome him to be on the show and get his take on Auger and kind of what he's doing. The thing, and again, this is me. You're a visionary more than I am for sure. I'm worried about 15 feet in front of me and how I'm going to take care of my family and pay the mortgage. I still don't understand what some of these words mean and how that works for me on a day-to-day basis. So interpreting data to make decisions faster. Okay, well, give me an example of that. Like, what does that mean? What's the practicality of that technology? I don't deny it's there. I just need some real-world examples of what that means so I can have a clear vision. So, like I said, I'd love to have him come on the show, talk about the vision and what the software does, and dumb it down for me like I'm this kid from Wichita, Kansas, that needs things simplified to a third grade level. But anyway, did you hear about Auger? Your take on Dave Clark?
Yeah, I've never met Dave Clark. I'd like to. I think that whatever you're going to call it, forcing him to leave or whatever they did, firing him, whatever, was just one of another in a long line of stupid decisions that were made at Flexport. And reading about what he's trying to do here, It sounds like a mixture of a lot of different technologies, maybe being honed into one platform. You have a lot of Project 44 in there. There's a lot of stuff for an operating system that's really more focused on not the freight forwarding world, but the transportation consumer themselves, and being able to make real-time decisions. It might have everything to do from giving you options if a certain transportation lane is closed, giving you options on what you can do to manage it. Maybe there's some final mile options in there as well. He's seen a lot, and he's surrounded by very smart people, and now he's got a big checkbook. So I'm sure there'll be some acquisitions in there as well. But happy to see what happens there. I would love to have a long conversation with him about a lot of things, particularly what Amazon must have been like. But yeah, this is it's an environment right now where we're not seeing a lot of money being flooded into Logitech, which for a long time we had.
Yeah.
And this to see this in the news that someone's dumping a pile of cash like this, that shows a great deal of confidence in what he's done in the past, and that there must be a hole in the market that he was able to articulate to people to get someone to cut a check that big. So we'll be watching it. Hopefully we get a chance to talk to him.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for the gruesome twosome, the dynamic duo of Mento and Draper, for another exciting installment of Global Trade This Week. Big thank you to our friends at Cap Logistics. Big thank you to Keenan, who probably had yesterday off from middle school because it was Columbus Day. And like we say every week, if it's happening in global trade, we'll talk about it next week on Global Trade This Week. Good show, Doug.
All right.
See you soon.
Good luck today, buddy.
Thanks, bud.